Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, achievement barred, achievement reinstated, and also preparing for a brave new world of college sports revenue sharing. How we divvying up them greenbacks. We're into it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and let the domination begin today by downloading Monopoly Go for free in the App Store or on Google Play. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, wrapping up another action-packed week. And as we head into the weekend, want to get into a football conversation with you and then a much broader conversation that will touch on not only the past, but also the future of this thing we love called college sports. But to kick it off here today, definitely wanted to touch on something that went down this week that may have flown under a Tech fan's radar, but I don't think it should, because I honestly think this is one of the coolest things that Joey McGuire has pulled the trigger on since he became the head coach at Texas Tech. If you're not familiar, once upon a time, and I mean for a long time, going back I think to the early 60s, Texas Tech was handing out team awards. And a lot of this I think is really cool because it also is an opportunity to, really kind of preserve some of the past, some of the tradition, and some of the great names in the history of the program. And for whatever reason, and maybe you can shed some light on this, they go away for a period of time, but now they're back. So if you saw some of this coming across the wire and were somewhat confused, this is what it was all about. And just a couple of them I'll run down here really quickly, Chris. You may have seen some of these already, but as an example, the JT King Award for Most Improved Offensive Player was our guy Xavier White. The JT King Award for Most Improved Defensive Player was Ben Roberts. The EJ Holub Double Tough Award, there's not a cooler name for an award anywhere in the country, goes to our guy Baron Morton. The Del Morgan Memorial Courage Award goes to Bryce Ramirez. The Donnie Anderson Sportsmanship Award goes to Dadrion Taylor Demerson, and the Pete Cawthon Memorial Team MVP, obviously, goes to our guy, the Brahma Bull of the 806, Taj Brooks. I just like, as a lifelong Tech fan, hearing some of those names. So there's a part of that sentimentality, I think, that I got to factor in here, Chris. But, of course, you also like to see some guys honored internally within the team kind of context. And as I've already said, I think this was an awesome move by Coach McGuire to bring these back around.
Yeah, it like marries the past with the present in some ways, and I think that's kind of what you're hinting at. For whatever reason, I this was a Spike and Mike both did this, and there were several coaches before them that had done these awards, and I think that on occasion there was a new one introduced, and I remember when Mike was the head coach, they would do a banquet, and you could go, and there was like a Tech theater on campus, and that's when a lot of these awards would be handed out. And I want to say it was like in January or February when they were it was after the season, it was before spring started. And all that. And, that was a hour and a half ceremony, and they would give out a few more other awards, but these are ones that have stood the test of time. And anytime you can mention EJ Holub, I mean, come on, man. Donnie Anderson. I mean, there may come a time when you come up with a new award and name it after somebody like Zach Thomas. I could see like a Zach Thomas West Texan Award for the toughest, best West Texan on your team. I mean,
how about a Mike Leach Outside the Box Thinker Award?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely,
yeah, man,
absolutely. But I mean, I appreciate, and this is why Joey is just really good at his job, because I don't, and I really don't know. I don't know if maybe like the Tommy Tuberville, and Cliff and Matt Wells and all that time frame, if they just didn't think about it, if they didn't feel like it was their place, if they felt like, I don't want to be disrespectful by like, I'm not the one that needs to bring these back, or I don't know. I don't have any idea of context. And maybe Joey just asked the right questions and he pushed for it or was like, this is what we're doing. I don't really know, but this is why he's really, because he just doesn't miss anything. These are like little things that I think the fans may not pay much attention or care, as much as you and I do, or as much as those players or whatever. But this is just one of those simple things that they brought them back and were going to do it. They did it at the spring game last year at halftime. And I remember Joey, we were getting ready for that broadcast, and Joey was like, hey, there's a list of awards we're going to give out at halftime. And I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to hear over the PA because we were at Lowry Field, the high school field in Lubbock. And so it kind of, I didn't want that to get glossed over, but this is the case now. You get a press release and you get some acknowledgement here because they couldn't really honor these kids in front of everybody. But, do you have any – would you have gone a different route with any of these award winners? Because, Double Tough Award, that was Baron Morton, right? And
yep.
I think that I just don't know if people really grasp what he played through all year, and still played pretty well in most cases. But it was a struggle every week, rinse and repeat. To acknowledge Taj and Rabbit and some of the others, man, I appreciate the whole thing.
No, I think they really nailed it. I think Xavier White was a great choice for the most improved offensive player. Ben Roberts on the defensive side. And I was kind of getting to wondering about a future prediction on some of these for this next time around, because you may see like a repeat. I don't know if they'll allow it, but a repeat MVP for Taj Brooks or someone along those lines. But the most improved aspect, offensive or defensive, if you're looking ahead a year's time, was kind of wondering about some of those projections as well. But no, I think they nailed it. And again, kudos to Coach McGuire for bringing this back around. And I think you described it very well, trying to marry the past with the present. I think it's important to acknowledge those things. It's a part of your program's culture. And so I'm glad that is going to be a part of it, continuing to move forward. And when you're talking about courage, you're talking about perseverance from a big picture standpoint. I don't think there's anybody better than obviously Bryce Ramirez and what he's gone through to fit that bill.
Yeah, he's just that kid smiling and playing football with not a worry in the world compared to what we saw in Raleigh, North Carolina a year and a half ago, whatever it was. Those are opposite ends of the spectrum, but he never wavered, man. He deserves a lot of credit because he's really not just coming back from the injury and overcoming some of those odds, but there's a lot of heart and soul of the team within him too. This is a guy that really has the pulse of the program, like team captain type stuff, and like respect to your peers, and that's the hardest thing to gain. You got to be good. You have to be respected. You have to do the right thing. You can't be fake. All those things, and you have to earn. It's like in some ways earning votes within your locker room when there's really not a vote, right? And that's very difficult to do. And one of the hardest things to do is earn the respect of your peers. But I go back to you. You were talking about like looking ahead to see this next year. I hope Taj Brooks is not the MVP this next year. I'll just say that. I don't know if that's best for your team. I think Baron Morton needs to be the MVP.
Or it would just at least be a good sign if someone else was in that kind of category, right? Anybody else.
I agree. I think that's very well said. I think that it tells me that – doesn't tell me that Taj had a bad year, but it tells me that maybe you didn't have to lean on him so heavily. Good for him. That somebody else picked up the slack. What if I were to say to you that like a Baron Morton, a Josh Kelly, a Micah Hudson was the MVP? I think would that be, I think that would be because you know what you're going to get from Taj. And I don't want to suggest, well, what if Taj would have got dinged up and he missed some time? Well, that's not what I'm saying, but you get the idea. I think I'm gonna and most improved player is tricky because that's an internal like there was nothing really on film or on tape for Ben Roberts to improve off of as far as the fans saw. But this is an internal, they saw him every day. They saw where he came from in practices as a redshirt freshman or as when he was actually redshirting versus this year when he was a redshirt freshman and able to play with eligibility. And then he just kind of came on the scene like gangbusters. So that one was, I wasn't expecting him to win that one because I'm like, damn, that's a really, because he hadn't even done anything to improve upon right yet. And like, so I think you get what I'm saying.
Sure.
Because I mean, he just kind of came out of shot out of a cannon, and I was like, damn, but it's not like he hadn't done anything the year before because he was redshirting. I'm fascinated with that one this year because I could see anything from like one of these, and I would say most of these awards, these are going to be guys that are core guys or guys that have been here, not portal entries. Because how do you hand up a portal entry award like most improved or I don't know. I would guess most of these will go to guys that you've kind of seen for a bit, and whether it's courage or overcome an injury or whatever, because these other guys you just barely getting to see unless they've been here for a few years. So, but like I mean, I'm gonna cape up for him again. I'm gonna toss out the name if he could stay healthy. I'm gonna toss out the name for most improved, like for Isaac Smith. How about that?
Well, I was thinking about, maybe some of those because they fit into this context. It's funny you mentioned that position. I thought about some of those freshmen that got some run a season ago, and they're going to get some more run this year. And really, if they're able to make an impact, maybe they could fit into that kind of category. I was thinking, you just mentioned the portal, like the David McWilliams here for 15 minutes award.
Right.
I don't know, something along those lines. If we've got a portal guy that's really making an impact, but we only get to enjoy him for about a half hour or so before his time is up.
And to Coach McWilliams' credit, he was one of the coaches that was handing out these awards. So he was obviously before Spike, and he just did it the one time. But he was part of this past tradition. Yes.
I'm wondering. There's been a bit of an award conversation happening nationally as well here this week, and I'm wondering how much attention you've been paying to that. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road. Or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, roof racks, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style. Whether it's power, speed, or design you're into, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. Just head over to ebay.com/motors now, where you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. Of course, I'm talking about the reinstatement of the Heisman Trophy for Reggie Bush. And God, I know we're all just feeling OJ just missed his chance. God, I got tore up over that. I'm wondering what else we may be able to get reinstated. Like, dear NCAA, am I allowed now to remember a 30-2 basketball season, 1995, 1996 for James Dickey and the Red Raiders? Or how far can we take this and bring back some of these things that are quote unquote vacated? What did you make of that story with the Heisman Trophy and just kind of everybody else, whether it's tech related or not, that could be on that list and be like, man, what I was doing, like barely even as a blip on, say, the monetary or compensation or incentive radar compared to what is now greenlit from college sports as a whole. It is a much, much different era, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of OJ, I rewatched that 30 for 30 documentary recently. It was 5 episodes. It's long. It's about, I don't know, 9 or 10 hours total, 5 episodes. One of the greatest sports documentaries that's ever been put together with the context of everything. I'd watched it after OJ passed away and everything. And it's well worth watching it if you've never seen it. But great historical context and all that stuff. As far as Reggie Bush goes, tying the USC things together, and we'll get to James Dickey and Sass and Coy and Darvin Ham and the boys in a second. But it's one. I think my opinion. I think the Heisman Trust, the voting. I think a lot of this, everybody takes this way too seriously, or they take themselves way too seriously. It's just like, I kind of somewhat cringy or laughable how uppity they come off as with and granted, I understood that they found Reggie Bush there was some wrongdoing there.
Guilty.
I don't think taking away his trophy was ever right. I strongly disagreed with that. I think that's grandstanding. Because it's and I get that there was rules, now there aren't, and all that stuff. But it's just hard. And sorry, but I can't not look at it this way now. But like what he was accused of or what he did. That's a Friday afternoon in a meeting at a collective on pretty much every Power 5 campus now.
Everyone that wants to compete.
Everyone. And some would say, not enough. Like what else are we doing?
Yeah, like the Barkley line about Cam Newton. If we only paid him $250,000 to play for Auburn, that was a hell of a deal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was glad. I don't know why this took so long. This is just, I don't know. The whole thing. It kind of made news for both times and it didn't need to either time. Keep the guy's trophy. He was the best player. I don't care what he, where he would have been playing or what free house he got or rent he got. I don't know. I just, because I just think that it's the naivete. Is that how we're going to say it? Of the folks out there that don't realize what's going on or has gone on or whatever. Anyways, I get it. I'm not trying to be an anti-rule follower, but it's just like some of this is common sense on what has gone on or going on in the world. And this is a great one. NFL draft coverage last night, and Nick Saban kind of basically like bails out. And I love Nick Saban. I bow down at the Church of Saban, man. I think he is the greatest to ever do it. He's sitting there talking about this Toledo cornerback that gets picked very high in the draft, I think, to the Eagles.
Yeah.
And at some point he says, guys, this was like our number one guy, at Bama last year. Who's our number one guy to try to get into the portal and try to get him. And I'm like, thank you for the honesty. This is what's going on out there. Like, you're not supposed to tamper. Wake up, people. Pull the head out of the sand. This is, and people are going to go, well, Alabama and Nick Saban, they've been doing all kinds of things. Yes, just like everybody else is. I just don't want to hear it. I can't.
They were just really good at it.
Yes.
Everybody's trying, though.
Yeah, and probably didn't have to work as hard at it because you got the Roll Tide in your favor and all that Bama brings. But anyways, I just thought it was interesting. And I thought people were like, well, I guess Nick wasn't quite the guy that we thought he was. Save it.
Yeah, so people noticed that comment, it seemed like.
I know, yeah. But I'm like, save it. This is and he's up there. He doesn't work for anybody now except for ESPN. He's like an open book, which I'm like, oh, give me more. This is good. I'll read this book.
Oh, can you imagine? Someday we'll probably get it, and the stories will be never ending, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I was glad to see that. Okay, but if I've never not thought of James Dickey's mid-90s team as not going 30-2 and all that stuff. Yeah. This was silliness, as far as I understood it. This was a lot of silliness. Again, remember this context of what we just talked about. This was silliness about, well, you haven't taken enough courses to make you a junior yet. You're still classified as a sophomore, and this is against some sort of rule. So we're going to take banners down and take wins away and put you in the news, and we're going to fire a counselor and take some scholarships away. Shame, shame, shame. It makes my head want to explode how stupid some of that is when guys are playing like 7-8 years now. Guys are getting tampered with. Guys are reportedly going, $250,000, not enough. I'm getting into the portal. Sorry, current school here that you offer me, but I know I'd committed to it. But you know what? Hey, man, I'm out. Peace. I mean, and we don't have progress enough toward a degree. And I get the student athlete thing, but we can only play that card so much, people. It's a business. It's a big time business.
Yes.
You know, I mean, so would I want my players and all that going to classes and doing the right thing? 1,000%. But to like grandstand and like pull banners down and try to, gaslight a basketball program back in the mid 90s for some of this is, it frustrates me. And you know what? Give the Fab Five, speaking of documentaries, go watch that one too, but go give the Fab Five their banners back too. So what if they sat in a hot tub? Yeah. Guess what? Guess what? They got some money. They got some money because they were selling Jalen Rose's, jerseys in the bookstore. I mean, terrible, terrible people, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, hey, UNLV back in the day too.
Oh my gosh. The list of examples would be endless almost, you would think, if we really dug into it.
But my favorite, and again, it's sentimental. Golly, was it my favorite over the Final Four team? Cowan, that might be sacrilege, but you know what? It might have been because that was my first introduction to greatness as it related to Texas Tech athletics, and that team was great.
Yeah,
and they lost to an all-time great in Allen Iverson, and they were. Because you're breaking backboards, you're on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and it was just a Sweet 16 run. But I was in school at the time, so they deserve their flowers, and I never quit thinking about them in different ways. And every time I see Darvin or Jason Sasser, Coy Smith, any of those guys, Janae Cooper, see a lot of those guys have seen them around over the years. Phenomenal people, and respect, gentlemen. Nobody's taking it away from you over some silly academic counselor slander. Whatever we're doing.
Yeah, man. Anytime I need a little goosebump rush, I just pull up the Ham Slam on YouTube. I'll never get enough of it, and I hope they never take that away from us. But I just, long ago, like 2 decades ago, whenever I got in to the business of covering college sports daily. And then all of a sudden I guess some things began to set in with me. Some of the greatest frustration was just kind of the wool that is pulled over the fans' eyes, or at least attempted to, treating us like we're idiots to some degree, like the sentimentality for just putting on your good old Varsity U sweater and going out there to do it for those reasons. I think, while maybe worthy of sentimentality from one era, is not the era we've been living in for quite some time. So I think transparency, things like that allow us to kind of get on the same page and understand what's really going on, I'm going to consider that a good thing. Agree or disagree? Let us know in the YouTube comments.
And you know what? Did they ever, I hope there's still a Sweet 16 banner up in that arena.
I was going to ask you. I'm not sure.
I don't remember, because there was a COVID
oh God,
fake banner put up there and hung for some mysterious, like,
that's the only banner I'll support bringing down if it's not already.
Because you know what, like what a COVID banner off of some fake, that's very Aggie-ish.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, man. Along the lines of just doing whatever you want to with your banners. About the only time I'd ever want to follow an Aggie blueprint is just doing what you want to with your achievements. Now, unlike the Aggies, you don't want to just make one up entirely out of thin air, but that one was kind of in that category, right?
Yeah, I walk into Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas, and it was with Tubby's team, and so you had Saul Smith and several members of his staff. They'd all either coached at or played at Kentucky and all that stuff. and they were given some of the Kansas folk, one in particular, grief because they're looking at Kentucky, Kansas. They're trying to compare, and there's these Helms national trophies from like 1923 and 1924 or whatever it was, and it's like, who is this person and why do they have a banner and what was this, and so I've always thought about that in these terms too. It's like, man, I don't even know who Helms was. I
remember somebody last year doing a dive. I can't remember what outlet this was from, but on it began to spread across other programs as well. But they started with, I guess Michigan is the all-time football wins leader, if I'm not mistaken, nationally. And so they began to dive into what some of those wins are actually over back in the day. And it's like, Southwest Regional School for the Blind, Poughkeepsie Junior Varsity Squad. I mean, and then, of course, everybody's like, hey, we got to win over a blind school too. Hey, so do we, and so do we. I mean, everybody was fudging a number to a degree once upon a time, but that's neither here nor there. Enjoy the achievements that you can remember, and don't let the NCAA tell you that you're not allowed to remember that, because we remember broken glass everywhere. If it ain't about anyway. Okay, let's get on to something else. Speaking of revenue, cash, transparency, had this question from the YouTube comments. I wanted to wrap up the week with, Chris, so let's get to this. First, today's episode brought to you by Monopoly Go, and we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime of the big game, and the scoreboard's not looking too good. You're feeling low. You're not sure you or your team are going to be able to pull out a win, and that's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. And you can do just that with the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies and tell them all about it whenever you're kicking their butts. You can also play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with the wrecking ball, or charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go today for free in the App Store or on Google Play. This is from our guy Lance Brunson, who says, I keep hearing we're headed for revenue sharing in college sports. Do you guys think that will be the case, and how soon? Chris, this is what a lot of movement seemingly has been based in. We've had lawsuits coming across, and there's preparation for, I guess, this era to set in eventually. It almost seems like some are anticipating this to just be almost a formality that it will come to pass. So do you think it'll be the case? And if we are in that formality stage, what do you actually view as the timeline?
So to answer the question, do we think that will be the case? Yes, I do. And soon. Yeah, I just don't know if I can tell you, if I can define soon right now. I would say in the next 6 months to 2 years, this is absolutely happening. Now,
really, that's even a little quicker than I thought you might.
Oh yeah, and now here's what, but this leads to. There's a lot of questions that you have to now ask, and I'll try to be somewhat precise because we can spend some more time on this on another episode. But okay, revenue sharing with whom? Is this just with the folks that bring in revenue? Because that's just football and basketball, and in some places it's not even basketball. Because most other sports they generate zero revenue. Football you usually provides the revenue for an entire athletic department. And so that would be my question. Are we just going to revenue share with the sports that generate it? Okay. And because all the TV dollars and all that are coming from football contracts or the college basketball, NCAA tournament, all those things. So there's those questions to ask. I think that this will also lead to, if you revenue share, this is where the employment part comes in. Okay, well, we're going to revenue share. Well, now we are going to call you an employee. So there's things to work through there. And then it's like, okay, well, if we're going to share revenue with you and we can hold you to a standard, we can fire you, we can fine you, we can, you can't call in sick only so many days. I mean, there's all those dynamics.
PTO.
That's right. I think that this could, the unintended consequence here is that you could force some schools to cut sports and turn some sports like Olympic type sports into club sports, just because we can't afford to fund it anymore because we have too much. Texas A&M. Whether this report was true or not, I think the Eagle and Bryan College Station reported that I think Trev Alberts, the new athletic director, let go of 8 to 12 athletic department people and added the context of the way the Eagle reported it, preparing for paying players. A&M thins out their athletic department, and that's very real. And I don't like seeing people lose their jobs. I don't care who it is. That's just not that's not what is, because honestly, athletic departments need more leadership, more help, not less. So, but again, unintended consequences if you have to cut sports or thin staff out to make this work. I also think from let's just go to like Texas Tech standpoint. If this does come into play for real in the next, whatever time frame, I think it will require the actual university helping fund this. I don't know if you can, really afford it otherwise, or you're having to, something else takes a hit, And so, but this is all why you're trying to be really greedy with whatever dollars you can get. I'll go play in Ireland. We'll go to, we'll do whatever. We'll go do a basketball event in Rucker Park if there's dollars attached to it. Yeah, we'll go do. Whatever you're talking about here, conference wise, they're trying to generate revenue because it's a bit scary and there's an unknown there on do you have enough to fund everything, and because things are changing, but this is about to be a fairly drastic change, so I don't know what it looks like, but I'm telling you, I think it's on the horizon. I think there's plenty of people that are going to tell you the same thing I will. It's close to an absolute. I just don't know what it looks like, how much, who gets to participate, who doesn't, and all those things. But it's going to affect college sports yet again when it comes to pass.
Yeah, and it's been one of those be careful what you wish for situations,
Yep.
Especially if you're coming from a non-revenue sport. And we've talked about over the last few years, student athlete, quote unquote, empowerment, and we want unionization. We want collective bargaining. I'm not saying we as in me, but you've heard that from others elsewhere. And you better be very, very careful depending upon what program you are in if you're actually going down that road. Because I think you're right. There's no way around the reality of some being cut because you're not generating revenue. And by some, we mean almost all outside of the football program. But I don't know whether you like it or dislike it. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it, but I do like the thought of putting it more so on the university. I think I've expressed my feelings before about this NIL collective era and how it's like all on the fans to now fund these things. Like, wait a second, I'm buying a season ticket for you to entertain me. I'm not buying a season ticket to be the general manager. Jerry Jones is not asking me to come, pay for his roster or whatever. So I feel like that's a little lopsided or backwards right now. I understand that it's always been a part of supporting the program. Boosters have always been a part of college sports, et cetera, and I'm sure they will continue to be. But I would not lose much sleep, I don't think, if it got put a little bit more so on the university or the athletics department to fund those things as well. So I don't know, man. There's going to be, as I've already said this week, a land of unintended consequences that are going to come about as a result of this. But you heard it here, and you may have heard it elsewhere as well. This seems like where we are headed 100%. And when you see athletics departments actually making moves to prepare for that, obviously drives that point home even a little further. So appreciate the question there in the YouTube comments. Always love to hear from you. So get in there and mix it up. We got a good dust up going just about every day. So appreciate all of you who are in there in the YouTube comments, letting us know how you feel. Keep them coming. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us throughout the week. Chris, always appreciate your time. Enjoyed it, man. And we'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy the weekend, people, and root for some Red Raiders to get drafted this weekend and all that good stuff. Baseball up in Lawrence, Kansas. Hopefully those boys do well, and we'll be back on Monday to break it all down.
That's right. For Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Thanks for being out there. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.